Hi, I'm Patrick Ropella, and welcome to Ropella TV. Today we have the pleasure of meeting with Harry Leboeuf. Harry is a retired Air Force colonel and a master navigator with over 2,700 flying hours in the C-130. Harry has 2 master's degrees and is a graduate of the Army War College. He has served our country all over the globe for over 28 years, and in his last position was a professor of leadership and ethics at the Air War College, where he was responsible for developing, coordinating, and instructing the postgraduate level curriculum. He's commanded at the squadron and group levels and has served in many joint operations positions. We're here to learn about Harry's interviewing, hiring, and team building experiences. Harry, thanks for being with us today.
My pleasure, Matt. Glad to be here.
Harry, as I understand it, in the Air Force, you aren't classically interviewed for promotions or to get a job per se, but I'm sure you've gone on a lot of interviews for other reasons. Could you tell us about the best experiences you've had where you were interviewed for opportunities?
Sure, and as a matter of fact, there are some times, depending on the position that you're going for, some select positions where you actually are interviewed beforehand. And so I'll tell you just a little bit about one of those particular ones. This was for, again, a select job. So I went in, I met the person who was doing the interview, and they asked the normal questions, you know, tell me a little bit about yourself, why do you want this job, you know, those typical kind of things, which I was prepared for and pretty much gave them rote answers. And I thought, hey, this interview is going pretty good, you know, no problems. And then he asked me this one particular question which just threw me away. And he said, you know, for all of the people who've applied for this position, you're the most junior. So why should I hire you? And I was really kind of taken back, really, because I didn't know I was the most junior person, which put me on the spot. I really wasn't ready for the question of, you know, from his perspective, why should he hire me? And so I took a few seconds, I thought about it, you know, and then I came upon the fact of, you know, well, I'm maybe more aggressive, although I may not have the experience, I'm more aggressive perhaps than some of the other people. I have more to learn than the other people perhaps might. And so I really just kind of tried to turn it into as positive an event as possible, even though I really wasn't prepared with an answer. I really just talked from the heart and explained about myself and what I would bring to this position, not knowing who the people were or what they would bring, but again, I put it as a positive of what I would bring to this position, even though I was the most inexperienced. And I guess I must have did okay because I was actually hired for the position and everything turned out fine. But I guess my word of caution there is, yes, prepare for the normal, but also be prepared for those bomb questions. Because I think really what he was trying to do was to put me on the spot, to see how quickly I could gather my thoughts, organize them in a logical manner, and then present them in a way that was beneficial for what he needed to know. And so I think that was what I learned a lot about that interview and what I brought to the table.
Okay, so that was a good experience where you learned how to interact and roll with the punches. Now give us an example of the worst interview you ever had.
Absolutely, and without a doubt, it was one that sticks in my head. It was a telephone interview. And right off the bat, I thought, telephone interview, this is going to be easy, you know, I could kick back, you know, kind of go with the flow. It's on the telephone, he won't see me, I won't see him. No pressure, I could handle this without any preparation. And so it began like most normally, you know, tell me about yourself and those sorts of questions. And I got through those pretty easily because you could kind of make that up on the fly. And then he started asking me specific questions about the job that I was looking for. And I guess I didn't do enough homework. I wasn't really ready. I couldn't take him seriously. And probably the worst part was I didn't have that personal connection with the person on the phone because it's kind of an impersonal kind of thing. And normally I like to look at the person and gesture, and you kind of get a better feel for me and what I could bring to the table, which you don't have over the telephone. And so as a bottom line, he didn't hire me for the position, and I don't blame him. I don't think I would have hired me either. And I would say that what I took away from that was, even though you think the interview is going to be an easy process, you still need to prepare yourself and get yourself in the right frame of mind to be able to put your best foot forward. And in a telephone interview, that's really a challenge because you kind of feel impersonal. And so probably those are even worse, I would think, than the face-to-face ones, simply because of that, the fact that you kind of take these really easy.
Okay, all right. Now let's look at it from the other person's point of view, where you were interviewing individuals. What would you tell us about the best experience you've ever had where you had to interview somebody for a role?
Sure. I always understood when I was the interviewer that the person coming in is going to be nervous, upset, not able to handle the situation very well. So what I always try to do whenever is I tried to put them as at ease as possible. For example, instead of sitting across from the desk, I would come out from behind the desk, and I had a table and a couple of chairs, and we'd sit there and we'd kind of chat a little bit. I'd ask them some questions about their family or those sorts of things to kind of put them at ease, to feel familiar with it, so we could kind of make a little bit of a connection. Now, you can learn a lot of things when you're talking about those things, even though it has nothing to do with the job or the position or their credentials. You can learn a lot about a person when you're doing that.
Sure.
And from the person being interviewed, you can kind of have time, take a breath, compose yourself. And then as an interviewer, then I would break into the questions again, the normal ones of, tell me a little bit about yourself, and in specifics about the job and what they would bring to it. And there was this one individual that I recall specifically that came in, and right off the bat, he was really nervous, the hands were clammy, wet, perspiring all over the face, normal kinds of stuff. And so I could see right off the bat that if I didn't calm this person down, there was no way I was going to be able to find out anything that I needed in order to make a decision. So again, we spent some time, talking about families and, vacations and those kinds of things, just to kind of get them to calm down, a little bit, gave them a little water to drink. And then I started in on the questions. Again, trying to be as calming as possible. This person came through with fantastic answers. And I'm convinced to this day that if we just broke right into the interview from the beginning, I probably would have never hired them. Yeah. But because I gave them this opportunity to calm themselves and then to put their best foot forward, actually I ended up hiring them for the position.
Excellent. Okay. So now let me ask you to give me an example of the worst experience you've ever had where you had to interview others. What kind of experiences have you had that were really,
Again, the same scenario. I try to put people at ease, but what I found is some people, by doing that, you're actually making them more nervous sometimes than not, because they're prepared with their stock answers. They have like the little cards almost that they're ready with their answers. And so this particular individual, very nervous person, same kind of thing, clammy handshake, sweating profusely, didn't look prepared. The uniform wasn't the way it should be, kind of disjointed, wrinkled kind of thing, not a very good first impression to begin with. Tried to calm them, couldn't really get them very calm, couldn't really get them into the groove, so to speak, of the interview. Decided, let's go ahead and get right into the interview so we could not prolong this any longer than it needed to be. Very, very short, curt answers, nothing specific, no explanation, almost a yes-no kind of thing, although the questions were not yes or no questions. Right. I kept fishing for trying to get them to develop a little bit more, to tell me a little bit about what was going on. Really, no matter what I tried to do, I just couldn't bring them around to opening up. Still very nervous throughout the whole process. And really, it didn't go well. And it's unfortunate because I'm sure this person had a lot of good things to offer, but because of the method that was going through, just couldn't get that to me. And as a result, I didn't end up hiring them. But I think that to try to calm yourself as much as possible before you go into an interview.
Very good. Okay. I know while you were in the Air Force, you were responsible for leading many teams and or groups of people. Can you tell us about the best experience you had when you were leading a team?
Sure. The best team that I ever had was, and I have to get a little bit of an explanation of what this was all about, was I was the chief scheduler for a flying unit. And I had several people working for me, one person representing each of the 5 positions in our airplane. There are 5 positions, 5 different crew members in our airplane, one representing each one of those. And what our job was to schedule a person in each of those positions and put together as a crew. Now, it was essential that we put people together who could work together, who could complement each other. For example, we wouldn't want to put a whole bunch of new people or just experienced people. We'd have to mix or match.
Sure.
And we had to look at literally hundreds of different training times and everything from vacation time, family times, rest times. It was really a very complex group of puzzles that we had to put together. And I had these 5 people representing them that worked for me. And I tell you, it was probably, from my perspective, the easiest team that I ever had to deal with, but it was also the most efficient and effective team. Now, this was a 24/7 day operation. And it was crucial that we put the right people together because we were sending these people off on missions, oftentimes that were hazardous, oftentimes that, that things could happen if we didn't do our job correctly.
Right.
For the 18 months that I had the job, not one time did we have to cancel a mission because of crew, which was unprecedented in the unit. And again, I don't take responsibility to that. Yes, I was the head of this group, of this team, but it wasn't on my shoulders. It wasn't because of me. Because I really believe that leadership is not about a person, it's about the people that they surround themselves with.
Sure.
And in this case, I had 5 outstanding schedulers that worked for me, and we were able to do things that up to that point had never been done, and I don't know, since then, I would hope to think that maybe it had never been done since then. But this was an absolutely fantastic opportunity to lead a group of people who were very professional in their job, and we all did an outstanding effort as a result.
Okay. So now it's time to spill the beans, Colonel. Could you tell us about the worst experience you had where you were leading a team, and now looking back, what you wish you might have done differently or what might have transpired?
Absolutely. I'm the kind of person that you give me a job, you give me a mission, you give me what I call the guidance, the criteria, and then let me run with it. And that's perfect for me. And that's exactly what I like to do. Give me the mission, give me the timeline, give me the whatever, and let me run with them. I was working for an individual who, unfortunately, was not, I'm trying to be a little diplomatic, was not as conducive of that type of person. They were much more of what you would typically know as a micromanager, hands-on kind of person. Would give you the mission, give you the guidelines, but then wanted constant feedback. How's it going? How's it been? What do you got left? Do you have any problems? And that was not something I was attuned to. That was not something that I grew up with. I always grew up with, turning me loose, let me get my job done. I'll come back and tell you if I have problems. I'll come back and tell you the successes, but I don't need you constantly updating all the time. And this particular person wanted constant updates. I mean, literally almost hourly updates, I would think. And so we really didn't hit it off very well. I really didn't do a very good job in that person's eyes. I thought I was doing a great job, but in my supervisor's eyes, not so much. And so what I wish I would have done better was, I wish I would have realized that earlier on, that this person's need for this constant comeback and gone back to them more often with updates. I mean, I was doing my job, I was getting things done, but from her perspective, she wasn't comfortable without that constant feedback. Right. And so the thing I would probably take away from that is, no matter what position you are in a leadership role, you always have somebody that's over you. You're also always a follower. And so what I try to tell everybody is, even though you're a leader of a team, a group, an organization, whatever it is, you still have someone that you have to report to. So remember that and keep them in the loop. Give them the feedback that they need, not the feedback that you want to give them, but the feedback that they need to know that you're doing what it is that you're doing.
Makes sense.
And I think that's a very important part of being a leader, is realizing that fact that you're not out there by yourselves. You do report to someone, board of directors or whoever the case may be. There is somebody out there that you report to.
Excellent. In your many years of leading people, what qualities really stand out in a person, and what would you want to pick, as it relates to specialized tasks or for promotions?
Very easily, and I would sum it all up into one word, and that's integrity. And what I've always tried to live by myself, and also for the people who work for me, is integrity, or the lack of integrity, is a slippery slope. Once you go down there, once you start hedging the truth, once you start, and no one lies, of course not, once you start fibbing, you're coloring it or whatever, once you go down there, it's very, very difficult, if not impossible, to get back up on the high ground. Because once I have doubt, once I don't think I can trust you, once I'm not so sure that you're on the team and that you're pulling in the direction of the team, it's very, very difficult to convince me that you are. And so what I've always tried to look for in people who work for me is that, do they have that integrity to begin with? Is this somebody that I can trust from the get-go and throughout the entire process? And that's the kind of person that I want working for me. That's the kind of person I want to surround myself with. I don't necessarily want you to be a yes person, That's okay. Tell me no. Tell me I'm wrong. But again, live up to your integrity. never ever go down that road, because again, it's very difficult to get that back.
Excellent. As you were promoted up to the ranks, what were the qualities that enabled you to get promoted and that others might want to adopt in their career?
Again, I'm not holding myself up as the example, but what I tried to live up towards, first and foremost, is the integrity, the ethics, having an ethical background, speaking your mind. You know, I tell people what I think, not necessarily what they want me to tell them, but I'm going to tell them exactly what I think, how I feel. Again, ethics and high integrity. I work hard. Some people call me a workaholic, at least my family calls me a workaholic, but that's how I find joy. I joy in working hard, in working a lot, in doing a lot of different things, juggling a lot of balls. That's what I like, and so that's exactly what I do. Keep your boss informed. You know, again, you need to feed that animal as much as that person needs to be fed, keeping them informed and doing those sorts of things. And probably, again, back with the integrity thing, the honest, upfront, and everything else will work out just fine.
Very good. Well, Harry, I appreciate you taking the time to come in today. Thank you again.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much, man.